The Forsaken Knights uncovered 3 rings during the Crusades, buried deep beneath the ruins of King Solomon's temple. But what was it about these rings that granted them supernatural power?
The answer lies in their origins. They were not crafted by mortal hands. Long ago, King Solomon was given these rings by divine decree. Their purpose? To command and bind 3 powerful fallen entities to his will. These beings, once angels, had fallen from grace and were now enslaved to the ring's magic. Their strength was not used for destruction, but for creation. They helped construct Solomon's temple, fulfilling the prophecy given to his father, King David.
Wait, demons helped build an actual structure? How is that even possible?
The first temple of Jerusalem was no ordinary place. It was meant to be the dwelling place of God's presence on earth, a direct connection between heaven and humanity. Before the temple, Israel worshipped at the tabernacle, a portable sanctuary used during their time in the wilderness. Exodus 25-27. But once Israel became a kingdom, a permanent house was required to house the Ark of the Covenant, the physical representation of God's throne on earth. Kings 5:5. I intend, therefore, to build a temple for the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord told my father David, when he said, Your son, whom I will put on the throne in your place, will build the temple for my name. It was divinely ordained, but even with human hands, the task proved impossible. That was when Solomon, desperate to complete the house of God, turned to the one tool he was never meant to use, the rings.
All right, but who was Solomon anyway?
Few people realize that Solomon was more than just a wise king. He was a powerful exorcist and a magician. In Islamic tradition, he is known as Suleiman, a prophet and king who had command over jinn spirits, animals, and the wind. But the true power of Solomon was not just his wisdom. It was his ability to bind and control supernatural forces. What if I told you Solomon's bloodline traces directly back to Adam himself? King David, Solomon's father, was the 33rd generation from after Adam. Adam, the first man, lived approximately 3,014 years before Solomon's reign. Would it surprise you if I said that Jesus Christ was 28 generations after Solomon, related through his mother, Mary? Jesus was born 966 years after Solomon. Matthew 1:6-16 and Luke 3:23-38 show the genealogy of Jesus, proving that Solomon's bloodline played a direct role in the coming of the Messiah.
So what does this have to do with Solomon being an exorcist?
It turns out that exorcism ran in the bloodline. Solomon wielded divine power over spirits, binding them into servitude. Jesus, generations later, cast out demons with a mere word, proving his divine authority. Mark 1:27. He even gives orders to impure spirits, and they obey him. Unlike the religious leaders of his time, Jesus needed no relics or rituals. He commanded demons with absolute authority.
This is insane. I can't believe I've never heard of this before.
Well, you're in luck. There was an ancient scroll recently found, recounting one of Solomon's first exorcisms. The scroll was partially eroded, but enough was preserved for scholars to reconstruct its meaning. You want to hear what they found?
Of course.
Okay, let's begin. The night was thick with incense and the distant chants of priests. In the heart of Jerusalem, within the sacred chamber of his temple, King Solomon, ruler of Israel and master of divine wisdom, stood before an aged woman. Her body, frail and bent, should have been weak with time, but the presence inside her made her unnaturally strong. She was bound by golden chains, her wrinkled skin marred with symbols that pulsed like open wounds. Her eyes, once milky with age, now burned with a green malevolent light. She grinned, her lips cracked like old parchment.
You are but a man, Solomon,
The thing inside her hissed.
and your wisdom will not save you from what is coming.
Solomon's grip tightened on the seal of Solomon, the ring inscribed with the true name of God. He could feel the weight of heavenly authority pressing upon him. This was not the first demon he had faced, nor would it be the last. The priests surrounded the room, murmuring sacred verses from the Torah, their voices trembling. Solomon spoke, his tone firm yet unwavering. By the power of the Almighty, I command you, unclean spirit, reveal your name. The old woman convulsed. Her body bent in ways no human should. A terrible wail erupted from her throat, shaking the very walls of the temple. Then, with a voice that was not hers, it spoke.
I am Razath, the Whisperer in Darkness, the Devourer of Faith. I have walked through the cracks of man's doubts and slithered into the hearts of the weak.
Solomon narrowed his gaze. A lesser demon, yet still a threat. These spirits thrived on despair and decay, creeping into the souls of the vulnerable, feeding on fear and doubt.
Your kingdom is weak, King of Wisdom.
Razath whispered, its voice layered with many tones.
You fight shadows while the storm gathers. The great adversary stirs beneath the veil, and the fallen one prepares his throne.
A chill passed through Solomon, but he stood his ground. He had heard whispers of Asmodeus before, one of Lucifer's most trusted lieutenants. If this was true, then far darker forces had set their sights upon his kingdom. Solomon raised his hand, and his body burned with the divine spark, the power that flowed within him since birth. The light, emanating from his form, seared the creature, forcing it back within the old woman's frail frame. You defile the house of the Lord with your presence, Solomon declared. You will be cast out and sent back to the abyss. The demon howled, the sound shifting into 1,000 voices, crying, laughing, cursing. The temperature in the chamber plummeted, and shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls. The priests struggled to maintain their chant, but fear gnawed at them. Then, the old woman lunged, her brittle fingers transforming into clawed talons as she tried to gouge Solomon's eyes. With a single motion, Solomon raised his palm, and from within him, the divine spark ignited, unleashing a torrent of holy light. The demon screamed as the power of God surged through him. Solomon recited the sacred words, "By the one who rules above all, I cast you out. Be gone, and trouble this world no more." The woman's body arched backward, her tendons snapping grotesquely. Dark smoke poured from her mouth, writhing and twisting as the demon was ripped from its host. The air vibrated with its final, tormented shriek before it was sucked into the void. The woman collapsed into Solomon's arms, body frail and trembling. She gasped, tears streaming down her face. The voices, they are gone. The darkness is gone. Solomon helped her to her feet, his expression soft, yet solemn. Rest now, child of Israel. You are free. The priests looked upon their king in awe. No warrior could match his might, for his battles were fought not with steel, but with wisdom and faith. As Solomon stepped into the cool night air, his mind weighed heavy with thought. This was but a lesser demon, a mere shadow of the darkness that lurked beyond the veil. If even a wretched creature like Razath could slip into the holy city, what greater horrors had already infiltrated the world of men? The wind whispered, carrying a voice only Solomon could hear.
You have won today, King of Israel, but Asmodeus stirs. The great adversary shall rise, and when he does, no kingdom shall stand. The rings alone will not bind us.
Solomon clenched his jaw. He would not falter. Not now. Not ever.
What did it mean by that? When it said, the great adversary shall rise, and when he does, no kingdom shall stand. Who is the great adversary, and how does this connect to the Forsaken Knights?
To explain that so you truly understand, we must start from the beginning. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Long ago, the heavens trembled as God convened his archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, and Lucifer. His voice, vast and eternal, resonated through the celestial halls, a decree of creation that would shape the cosmos. "I've formed a new being in my image," God proclaimed.
They shall bear the divine spark, the potential to rise beyond even the angels. You are to serve them, protect them, and guide them.
Michael and the other archangels knelt without hesitation, their wings bowing in reverence. But Lucifer, the brightest of them all, remained standing, his fiery gaze unyielding.
"I will not bow to an inferior being,"
he declared, his voice defiant.
"We are your firstborn, the most powerful among creation. They should bow to us."
God, who sees all, knew what lay in Lucifer's heart. Already, the son of the morning had whispered to others, sowing the first seeds of rebellion. The heavens darkened as Lucifer gathered his followers in secret, speaking to those angels who longed for greater dominion. His most trusted were among them: Asmodeus, Mammon, Leviathan, Beelzebub, Minos, and Belphegor. These angels, second only to the archangels in might, each embodied a fragment of the forbidden desires they would soon become. Pride, the morning star, God's most radiant creation, whose arrogance led him to challenge the divine order. Mammon, greed, keeper of celestial wealth, whose hunger for power was insatiable. Asmodeus, lust, the angel of passion and desire, longing to forge a kingdom built on indulgence. Leviathan, envy, the great serpent, jealous of the place humanity would hold in creation. Beelzebub, gluttony, the master of excess, who sought to consume all for his own pleasure. Minos, wrath, the executioner of heaven, whose rage burned hotter than the stars. Belphegor, sloth, the keeper of knowledge who, in his apathy, did nothing to stop the coming war. Lucifer raised his sword, a blade of starlight, and addressed the legions before him.
Why should we be bound by servitude? Are we not the firstborn? Should we not sit upon thrones instead of bowing to creatures of dust? The throne of heaven belongs to us.
A roar of approval echoed across the stars, and the first rebellion in history was set into motion. When the betrayal was revealed, Michael, the guardian of heaven, gathered the forces of light. By his side stood Gabriel, the messenger, Raphael, the healer, and Uriel, the flame of God. The heavens erupted into war. The battlefield stretched across the golden expanse of heaven, where countless angels clashed in divine combat. Michael led the charge, wielding a sword of pure flame. He sought Lucifer directly, cutting through legions of rebels. Gabriel and his forces countered Beelzebub and the gluttonous host, who sought to consume the light itself. Raphael confronted Asmodeus, the corrupter of love, whose touch could shatter even the holiest bonds. Uriel engaged Leviathan, the coiling serpent, their battle shaking the cosmos. Blades clashed in a divine storm, the sky ablaze with the fury of fallen stars. The sound of battle was deafening, thunderous cries of angels, the clash of celestial steel, and the hymns of those who remained faithful. Michael and Lucifer met at the heart of the battlefield, their blades igniting the firmament.
You have forsaken the light, Lucifer. Surrender, and perhaps he shall grant you mercy.
Lucifer laughed, his blade meeting Michael's with a force that cracked the heavens.
I do not seek mercy. I seek dominion. I will ascend above the stars of God. I will make myself like the highest.
God's voice resounded, bringing an end to the war.
You have said, at your heart I will ascend to the heavens, but you shall be cast down to the depths of the pit.
The fallen angels plummeted like burning meteors, their screams lost in the void. Lucifer, the fallen morning star, was stripped of his name and became Satan, the adversary. Mammon fell into the abyss, his greed turning him into a wretched hoarder of lost souls. Asmodeus, once the embodiment of celestial love, became the corrupter of flesh and desire. Leviathan was cast into the depths of the sea, his form twisted into a beast of envy. Beelzebub, the devourer, was condemned to rule over pestilence and decay. Minos, once heaven's executioner, now roamed hell as its judge. Belphegor, too slothful to resist his own corruption, sank into the depths of lethargy and despair. As they fell, their once radiant wings blackened and twisted, their divine forms mutated into horrors unknown. The fire of their rebellion scorched their celestial flesh, reshaping them into monsters born of sin. Lucifer's beauty was shattered, his form now cloaked in shadow and crowned with infernal fire. Mammon's golden countenance melted away, leaving a visage of endless hunger and torment. Leviathan grew vast and terrible, his body now an endless sea of writhing serpentine limbs. Beelzebub's gluttony consumed him, his form bloated and grotesque, swarming with locusts. Minos' wrath turned him into a titan of fury, his hands stained with the blood of those he once judged. The light of heaven faded from their eyes. They were no longer angels, they were demons. From the abyss, Lucifer looked up, his eyes burning with wrath.
We shall rise again, and this time we shall not fall alone.
So Asmodeus is Lucifer's highest-ranking demon? If he and the others were sent to hell, how was he able to possess the old woman that King Solomon exorcised? How did he escape hell?
I must finish the story for it all to make sense. May I continue?
Yes, please.
From Adam came Seth, from Seth, came Enosh, and through the generations, the bloodline continued. Noah, the righteous man who survived the great deluge. From Noah came Abraham, the father of nations, and through his descendants, Judah, Perez, Boaz, and Jesse. Jesse's son was King David, the warrior who would unite Israel, a ruler ordained by divine will, yet haunted by the whispers of darkness. Among the Philistines, Asmodeus found his vessel, Goliath, a towering champion whose strength surpassed that of mortal men. Acting as a conduit for the demon's power, it was believed by few that he was one of the Nephilim's descendants. Goliath sought to extinguish Israel's hope. For 40 days, he mocked God and his people, daring them to send a challenger. David, a young shepherd, outraged by the giant's blasphemy, stepped forward. Armed only with a slingshot and faith, he faced the monstrous warrior. Asmodeus roared within Goliath, but the divine spark within David shone brighter. A single stone, guided by faith, struck its mark. Goliath fell, severing Asmodeus's hold over him. Yet, the war between good and evil was far from over. David's rule, though divinely appointed, became tainted by Asmodeus's influence. He waged brutal wars, razing cities and leaving none alive, justifying his actions as divine retribution. His greatest sins, his affair with Bathsheba and the murder of Uriah the Hittite, were whispered into his ear by the demon. Uriah the Hittite was a loyal soldier in David's army and the husband of Bathsheba. Though not an Israelite by birth, Uriah was a Hittite, a people who had lived in Canaan before Israel's conquest. Despite being a foreigner, he was a faithful follower of Yahweh and a respected warrior, counted among David's 30, his elite soldiers known for their courage in battle. 2 Samuel 23:39. While Uriah was away fighting the Ammonites, King David saw Bathsheba bathing from his palace roof. Overcome with lust, he summoned her to his chambers and slept with her, resulting in her pregnancy. To hide the affair, David called Uriah back from battle, hoping he would sleep with his wife and believed the child was his. But Uriah's loyalty to his comrades and his God prevented him from doing so. He responded, "The ark and Israel and Judah are staying in tents, and my lord Joab and my lord's men are camped in the open fields. How could I go to my house to eat and drink and make love to my wife? As surely as you live, I will not do such a thing." 2 Samuel 11:11. Uriah's honor exposed David's failure. Seeing that Uriah would not compromise his integrity, David devised a darker plan. He secretly ordered Joab, his general, to place Uriah in the front lines of battle and withdraw the troops, ensuring his death. Uriah was killed, and Bathsheba became David's wife. But David's sin was not forgotten. Because of his sin, David's household would be plagued with violence. The child conceived in adultery would die. Though David repented, he suffered consequences for the rest of his life. Some believed Asmodeus had orchestrated David's undoing, feeding his pride, desire, and ambition. Yet despite his failures, God upheld his covenant with David. An everlasting dynasty was promised to his lineage, leading to the coming of the Messiah. As his reign neared its end, David desired to build the first temple, a house for the Lord's presence on earth. Yet God denied him this honor. "My son, I had it in my heart to build a house for the name of the Lord my God. But the word of the Lord came to me, saying,
You have shed much blood and have fought many wars. You are not to build a house for my name because you have shed much blood on the earth in my sight. But you will have a son who will be a man of peace. He is the one who will build a house for my name."
1 Chronicles 22:7-10. David had fallen, but his bloodline endured. His son, Solomon, would inherit the throne, and with him, the fate of Israel. Though David was forbidden from building the temple, he spent his final years gathering materials, preparing the land, and bestowing his wisdom upon Solomon. With the divine spark passed down through the generations, Solomon's destiny was set. But he would soon learn that even a kingdom of peace cannot escape the shadows of war. As the world watched, a new battle between heaven and hell was about to unfold. The land of Israel basked in an era of unprecedented peace under the rule of King Solomon, son of David, the wisest ruler to ever live. With his father's enemies vanquished and his kingdom flourishing, Solomon turned his attention to his greatest divine mission, the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem. Kings 5:5. I intend, therefore, to build a temple for the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord told my father David, when he said, Your son, whom I will put on the throne in your place, will build the temple for my name. The temple was to be unlike anything seen before, a structure where heaven and earth would meet, where the Ark of the Covenant would reside, and where the people of Israel would worship the one true God. But despite Solomon's wisdom, the task proved impossible. The early days of construction were filled with hardship. Despite the efforts of thousands of laborers, the massive limestone blocks and intricate cedar beams imported from Tyre proved difficult to maneuver. Man's strength alone was not enough to fulfill the divine vision. The Israelites toiled under the sweltering sun, their bodies breaking, their morale diminishing. Accidents claimed the lives of many, and frustration festered among the workers. Solomon watched in growing concern. Even with his divine favor, even with the wealth and wisdom granted by God, his vision was beyond human capability. In the dead of night, he stood within the half-built foundation of the temple, gazing at the heavens. Lord, you have given me the task of building your house, yet the strength of men fails. What am I to do? Then in the silence, he felt it, the weight of the ring upon his finger, the seal of Solomon, a ring of gold inscribed with the true name of God, thrummed with energy. It was said that the ring granted dominion over spirits, binding them to the will of its bearer. Solomon hesitated. Could it be that the labor of men was meant to fail? Could it be that the temple must be built by those who once dwelled in heaven? With a deep breath, he pressed the ring to the stone and uttered the words only he knew. The earth trembled. A crack split the temple floor, and from the darkness below, a figure emerged in chains of light. Asmodeus, prince of the fallen, keeper of forbidden desire. Asmodeus rose, his celestial form twisted, yet his eyes still bore the sorrow of an angel long cast down. He glared at Solomon, but the binding held firm.
You dare summon me, son of David?
The demon growled, his voice like the rumble of a distant storm. Solomon stood firm. I am not here to torment you, Asmodeus. You will aid me in the construction of God's temple. The demon laughed, a sound laced with bitterness.
The irony, Lucifer's fallen host, forced to build the house of the Lord. You mock me, King of Wisdom.
Solomon did not waver. You will not build it alone. You and your kin will raise the stones, carve the gold, and sanctify what was once lost. And in doing so, you may yet remember the light you have forsaken. For a moment, Asmodeus hesitated. A flicker of his former self stirred deep within. He beheld the workers, the struggling men, the devotion in their eyes. He saw the futility of their efforts, the imperfections of their fragile forms. A thought crept into his mind.
Could we have been wrong?
Just as the thought took hold, the air shuddered with a dark whisper.
Remember who you are.
A shadow slithered from the cracks of the earth, and from it, Azazel and Belial emerged. Their wings, still blackened with the fire of their fall, stretched high as they stepped onto sacred ground. Azazel, the smith of war, grinned.
Solomon's pet, how far you have fallen.
Belial, the whisperer, leaned in.
Do you not see? The ring binds you, but you are still one of us. Lucifer has not forgotten you.
Asmodeus shook, his form wavering. Memories of the war in heaven filled his mind. The moment of defiance, the fall, the anger, the loss. His lips parted, and for the first time, Solomon saw true hesitation in a demon's eyes.
Break your chains.
Azazel commanded.
Together, we shall tear down the temple before it is ever completed.
Solomon felt the shift in Asmodeus. He saw the war waging within the demon's soul. For a moment, he pitied him. Then, he raised the ring. With a shout, he summoned the Archangel Michael. A blinding light split the sky, and Michael descended, his fiery sword illuminating the temple. Azazel and Belial roared in fury. The battle shook the heavens. Michael's blade clashed against Azazel's iron. Solomon wove spells of binding, forcing the demons back. Asmodeus fought within himself, torn between the past and the present.
Choose, Asmodeus,
Solomon shouted. Break your chains and fall forever, or stand and build what you have destroyed. With a cry that echoed across worlds, Asmodeus turned on his brethren. He struck Belial down, driving him back into the abyss. Azazel snarled, retreating.
This is not over.
With the power of the ring and the might of Michael, bearing two more with the seal of King Solomon, with a six-pointed star engraved on them, Solomon bound Azazel and Belial into rings, just as he had done with Asmodeus. The three rings, now containing the fallen princes, shone with an eerie glow. Solomon lifted them, knowing that his kingdom was forever changed. With the labor of men and fallen alike, the first temple was completed, a place where heaven and earth met, built by those who had known both. Asmodeus, still bound, stood atop the final stone, gazing over the city. He did not speak. Solomon stood beside him. It is finished. The demon only whispered,
For now.
Solomon stood alone in the great hall of his palace, the air thick with the acrid scent of burning incense. The torches lining the marble walls flickered uneasily, as if the very flames recoiled from what was about to be revealed. He had spent his life gathering wisdom, ruling with divine favor, and constructing a temple that was meant to be the dwelling place of the Most High. And yet, the enemy had built its own dominion, hidden in the shadows of his court. The words of the dying demon echoed in his mind.
Fool, you think this victory, your kingdom is already mine.
A chilling gust crept through the chamber. The weight of his crown, once a divine blessing, now pressed down on him like an iron shackle. He turned to the ancient parchment spread before him, a forbidden text recovered from the depths of a secret chamber beneath his own temple. The inked sigils of the ancient eye writhed under his gaze, as if repelled by the presence of a true king, an ancient order, hidden in plain sight, woven into the very fabric of his court. High priests, advisors, even his own scribes, they had sworn loyalty not to the Most High, but to the adversary. But what made them truly dangerous was their bloodline. Nephilim blood coursed through their veins, descendants of the fallen. Their lineage traced back to those who defied the heavens and took mortal women as their own. This was not merely a cult of traitors, but a dynasty of the cursed, a house of dark knowledge and forbidden power. For centuries, they had practiced the arts of the Watchers, unraveling secrets that should have perished in the flood. They have been behind this ancient conspiracy, breaking Asmodeus' seal and freeing him from hell. Cursing Solomon and his ancestors all this time, they had summoned horrors. Through rituals hidden beneath the palace itself, they had brought forth monstrosities, beasts with fangs like iron, talons of obsidian, and eyes that bled fire. They did not fight with swords, nor armies of men. They waged war with nightmares, dragging creatures from the abyss to serve the adversary's will. And now, Solomon knew the final truth. He had been their target all along. Not his kingdom, not his temple. Him, the wisest king of all ages, heir of David, bearer of the ring that commanded the spirits. His fall would be the greatest triumph of darkness. His heart pounded as he read the final passage of the cursed text, a prophecy written in blood. The King of Light shall sit upon a throne of wisdom, but darkness shall coil at his feet. The gate will open from within, not without. Terror gripped him. It was never about war, never about armies. It was about him. The adversary did not need to break the kingdom if he could corrupt its king. And now, Solomon faced a question no wisdom could answer. Was he already lost? Solomon then had images flash before his eyes. 3 warriors wielding the rings from a different time. They were wearing black steel armor, unlike he has ever seen before. They had a strange symbol on their chest plate. When Solomon opened his eyes, Asmodeus was grinning with a sinister gaze. Deep below, in the abyss where Lucifer waited, the war had only just begun.